More people joining.
Great.
Oh
It's
man,
good to see you,
it's good to see
all
you.
of you.
Hello.
I'm doing
Looks like we have
good.
some
You're
folks
doing
on
good.
the phone
hmm
as well, maybe, or just not showing their screens yet. So, oh, there you are. This is so cool. This is my first like Zoom meeting outside of just the meetings that we have with our team. So I'm
Cool.
having like a little bit of a moment. Like this is so exciting.
It's working.
It's also so fun to see people in their home environments or wherever they are, I guess.
Right, right.
So we'll get started in just a few minutes. I'm just going to give everyone a couple more minutes to join, and then yeah, I'll just kick off like our networking activity, and then jump into it at 6 o'clock with your presentation, Sophia.
I'm excited.
Did you cut your hair?
I did.
Oh, great!
I
It
know.
looks
I
great.
actually cut it like just before everything went crazy. The beginning at the very end of February, I went
Yeah,
and got it cut. I was like, just cut it. It was really, really long to like the middle of my back, or maybe even
yeah,
longer
it
than the
was
middle of
very
my
long. I just wasn't sure if maybe it was like a camera angle or something, but you cut your
No
hair.
camera tricks. No, this is snipped.
That's
Yes.
awesome. All right. Well, yeah, we'll go ahead and get started to just like honor the time of those who joined on time. Knowing that this networking time is kind of an open forum. I want to take a moment to welcome you all to our first virtual call and talk. I want to thank Sofia Colón, our presenter for the evening. She actually she gave this talk just a month ago, maybe, in Palm Springs. I was
Yes.
going to say Valley Springs, but no, Palm Springs, and agreed to come and deliver the talk at VIA. And now, given the situation that we're in, we're adapting and making it work.
Yep.
But hopefully, we'll be able to do this again, maybe in person at some point. But yeah, so just to kick us off, can everyone hear me right now? I know we have a lot of folks on mute, but if you could just give me a thumbs up if you can hear well. Okay, great. What I want to do is take a moment to make space for everyone who is able to join to share a little bit about themselves, what kind of things you're working on right now. If you're currently like a blogger, or if you have a digital platform that you're using, tell us a little bit about that. If you're an online, or if your platform is outside of the digital environment, tell us about that. I want to kind of learn a little bit more about the causes that you're involved with and why you're here today. So I'll call on you, I think, just for the ease of doing this virtual call. I'll call on you, and if you are on mute, we'll let you know. Otherwise, I can unmute you as well. But I think I'll start with Austin.
Hello, my name is Austin Steinhardt. I am the program manager with Changes. We are a youth development organization here in Stockton, part of Stockton Service Corps. And so we kind of like the Little League for Civics. We bring young people from across Stockton together to go on a civic journey for 22 weeks. And so we're no longer doing that because gatherings larger than 10 are not recommended according to the CDC. So we are thinking about what it means to engage with our young people, both in just like a way that's rooted in how our young people have access to resources, being supported both in terms of material need and social, emotional, and mental health needs as well. Thinking about how are we able to connect with our young people and also continue to engage them in some type of relationship building and civic opportunities online in these interesting times.
That's great. Thanks so much for being here, Austin, and great to see you. Glad you're well. Moving on, I would like to introduce or invite Dustin to introduce himself.
Hi everyone. Well, I'm Dustin Breakbill. I've been part of like nonprofit work for the last couple of years with the Voice of Stockton and the Voice of San Joaquin and the Peace and Justice Center. But I moved on from that. I'm doing political stuff now. I'm an intern with the Susan Eggman campaign for state senate. Um, Also, I'm running for student government this upcoming semester, whenever they figure out how to do that at Delta College. And I'm just involved civically, and civic engagement's my big thing for this upcoming year because I want to get people more involved and get them registered to vote.
That's great. Thanks so much, Dustin, for being here. And welcome to anyone who may have joined since since Austin and Dustin introduced themselves. We're just going around the room and introducing around our virtual room and introducing ourselves, talking a little bit about what causes we're involved with, what kinds of activism we do, whether that's online activism or community activism in person. Obviously, we're not doing that as much right now, but yeah. So we'll continue on with our introductions, and I'll ask Michelle to introduce herself.
Hi, so I'm a first year college student at Delta. I was involved in ASTC as well as the Senator of Legislative Affairs, so that was really cool. I got to write resolutions on behalf of Delta. But currently I'm working on starting a chapter. It's called Ignite. Thank you. It's called Ignite, and it's just about like empowering women to be engaged in politics and to fill up these spaces because we make up more than half the population, but it's not really equivalent in government today. So making that happen. And then also part of Young Dems with Dustin as well. And then also an intern for the Susan Eggman campaign. So those are some things that I'm doing, but I actually am really interested in starting a blog. And so this is like the perfect like opportunity for me to be here today. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, let's see who else we have online. We have Christine. Are you on the line?
Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Corrales. I work for a government agency here in Stockton. I am I'm your friendly regional planner. I work for a regional government agency. We primarily work on transportation, sustainability issues, and more recently, affordable housing issues for the region. And in terms of how I identify as an activist, I guess the way that I would identify myself is just like me being a person of color, a woman of color in public sector is kind of my form of activism. In this field, it's not very common to see women of color serving in such a role. And so for me, I take that, those experiences I have, those world perspectives that I have with me into the workplace.
Okay, and then it looks like from the VIA team, we have Leo on the line. Leo, want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, my name's Lionel, everybody calls me Leo. And yeah, so I have to say this is pretty new right now, what we're doing. I think it's exciting. And yeah, I'm new in Stockton. Some people know me already. And I started getting involved with Third City Coalition just to learn, you know, what the civic engagement plan is and how I could connect with people and see what I could do here in Stockton and help around. I was very excited about founding VIA as a place of connection where we could bring people in there and connect with them and help them. I think what we're doing right now is a great opportunity. It's a start of something new that I think we'll have to be doing from here on. You know, I hope it's not forever, but it's a good start. And I think I would like to see this more. All these little pictures of people here growing more and more, and see how we could all connect and help each other. I think the idea of doing this, which I think is something that I would really want to get involved, is to see how from here I could help each one of us get to where they want to be, or help with whatever situation they're going through. And yeah, that's basically what I'm planning to do. Just to see how I could give a hand. I know we're very concerned about what the future is, and but I am someone that's always been very positive in very difficult situations. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that I'm here to listen if I could help with anything, even if it's emotional help or anything else that could be also with connecting people around. And yeah, that's me. So hi.
Hi. Hi there. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Leo. Okay, and then I know we do have our speaker on the line already, Sophia. I don't know if you want to take a moment to introduce yourself before. I do have one more activity that I was hoping we could do before, but if you don't mind, just so that everyone knows who you are when and if you speak.
Sure. So I'll just introduce myself really briefly here. We'll talk a little bit more about myself in a second. But hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Sofia Colón, and I am the blogger behind How She Does It. And I wrote this particular presentation that we'll go through. I wrote this initially as a blog post, how people can get involved. And I added to it so that way I could present it in Palm Springs, as Jasmine was explaining earlier. I actually presented a roundtable presentation to bloggers, influencers at this huge blogging conference. And what I found was that people do want to share their political views, but from a lens of being a blogger influencer, sometimes we're not sure how to do that and maintain the brand that we've created. So I share this so that way people can understand that there's ways that you can still be politically active and maintain your brand image, or develop it if you're trying to grow your brand image and you are really passionate about certain political issues. How can we do that? So we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm really passionate about encouraging people to share their political views. It's not until we start to kind of put these things out there, whether it's to ask a question or just to say, hey, I see this thing going on and I want to share what I've learned about it, or I want to share about what's going on. That's actually raising political awareness. And now is the time where we really need to do that. Whether it's within our small circles or on a larger scale, now is the time to speak up.
So true. Now is absolutely the time, even though, things are uncertain and, people are, many people are, unsure if it's, what's next for them. But I so appreciate that sentiment that, those are the times when we have to speak up the most, because there's all kinds of interesting things happening around us. So before we go into the presentation at 6, I did want to take a moment, and I feel I really just want to take a moment to ground ourselves in one, just the gratitude that we're all able to join together around this. It's kind of a round table. If you're in speaker view, it kind of feels like a round table a little bit. To just really take a moment and think about the things that we are grateful for. And so this is kind of a fun activity. I've had a little bit more time than probably most of you, but I want you to think about, look around the room that you're in, or where you are. And if you have to get up from your chair for a moment, or wherever you're sitting for a moment to grab something to do this exercise, that's totally fine. We'll come back in a second. But I want you to look for an item or an object in your room that speaks to you about something that you would want to fight for. It doesn't necessarily have to be a physical object. It could be a picture on your phone. It could be, get creative. But I want to take 1 minute, and maybe a minute and a half if we have to go find something and come back and share it out. If you don't want to share, that's fine. But yeah, go do that right now.
Okay.
Okay. Does everybody have their thing? Their item?
Yeah.
Thumbs up if you do. Okay. Who wants to share first?
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. You go
Yeah,
first.
go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So this is my little friend. You guys can see it's a piggy bank. It's a piggy bank, but he's a luchador piggy bank. And I actually saw an image of this little piggy on Pinterest, and then I surprisingly saw it over at one of the pop-up downtown. I can't remember now which one, but so when you asked me like what is something that I am fighting for right now, I think especially right now I'm like interested in how we are building our savings, right? For emergency planning. It's so evident right now that even for myself, like I think I'm doing the right things, but there's always something more that could be done to safeguard. And one of the things I felt like right when these changes started happening and foreseeing that people are going to be going home, they might be losing their income, or even just prior to that when there was this toilet paper run, right? This big crisis to have things to feel secure in what you're stockpiling. I remembered a time 10 years ago where I wasn't in the same financial space where I am right now. And I thought of myself back then, what would I be doing? How would I be feeling? And I would also be feeling scared. And I would also be feeling like I need some security. What can I do to make myself feel secure? And I might have been one of the ones like, we need to go get a bunch of stuff, And so even though, being financially secure was already on my mind, even more so now, I think that it's so important that we have a sense of control of our finances so we don't feel that that pressure to stockpile or I'm still trying to find the words to describe it, but I think you all understand what I'm trying to explain is just to be financially secure in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really something I think on many people's minds right now. Leo, were you going to go? Were you going to say something?
Yeah. It's kind of funny to say this, but usually when I drink my coffee, there's a part of the living room that there's a chair, and I usually pile books there, but I seldom sit there. I usually head to the back or head to where I'm sitting right now, which is like my office. So these past days I've been sitting there because across right in front is the window, and I kind of looking out to the window kind of gives me, like this space or a way of saying, okay, I'm outside, but I'm not inside. So there's the trees and everything. So there's a particular book that's been there for a while, and I'm going to show it to you right now. And it's, and I start going through it, and I say, wow, it's interesting that now this book is there, and it basically attract my attention. And I start looking at the book, and it's called, can you see it? What If? So it's a very interesting book. And some of the questions that it asks say like, I'll just read one. I won't explain what it says, but it says, global windstorm. What would happen if the Earth and all terrestrial objects suddenly stopped spinning, but the atmosphere retained its velocity?
I don't even know where to begin with that question.
So,
I wouldn't even know.
it start, telling you things and facts and issues and gives you an explanation of what would happen.
Well,
So
that's interesting.
long, basically, I start thinking that something that really I want to keep going, and I've been doing this for a few days, and this told me that, kind of gave me like, not the answer, but the reassurance, is that I want to continue talking to my friends and having them not only accept and look at news, but also to look at facts of things that are happening around the world, to reassure them. I think it's very important for everyone to also look for yourself, look for the facts. We have the access to Google. So we also have the access to research around and really find out if certain things that are being said are true, if certain things that are not being told are there. Because I think things like this are also going to give us peace of mind somehow. Because when you start researching, sometimes what you really want to find so that you have a peace of mind mentally, which is what we need right now, comes.
Yeah, and I think also it's important to keep that in mind for when we're thinking about our activism too.
Exactly.
So that's a great segue.
So I think that's something that I want to, this for me, I think this is something that's strong. It's like when they say, when you look for something, it comes your way somehow.
Yeah,
So
totally.
it might not be information about what's going on, but maybe it might be someone talking about something that reassures your soul while you're going through this, or it gives you peace of mind economically, like Sofia, what you're saying, something is going to click. And I think this is what we need to do right now. We need ourselves to go there and kind of do a little research,
Totally.
see what's out there, see what maybe a friend or something is happening in South America, what's happening in Australia, what's happening. So like today I was looking at something and I came up with a beautiful picture of some place in Costa Rica, of some picture outside of the trees and the the mountains and whatever. And just looking at that, I was like, wow, that's really cool. Maybe after this I would like to do something and go over there. And that gave me some type of peace inside.
That's great.
Some positive reassurance that there's something that in the future, to keep me positive, to say, okay, all this is going to pass, I'm going to go there. So basically that was my thing with this that I wanted to share.
Thank you, Leo. Appreciate that. Okay, looks like we're about 5 minutes from having Sofia present. I don't know if does anyone else want to share their item? I would love to hear if there's other items. I saw someone raise a glass of wine earlier. Christine, was that you? No? I went and grabbed my kombucha. Plug for a more kombucha, y'all. They're great. In case y'all haven't heard of them. Anybody else want to share their item? Why
I
they're
can
fighting for?
really
Great.
quick. Because I saw this and it's like I got this for Christmas and it's like my little mug and it's like personalized with like my cat. And so like ever since I was like born, I'm like huge animal advocate forever. I love my cats and my dog and like they mean everything to me. And so more recently I've been looking into bills that are like, advocating for them because they're like truly like the beings that don't have a voice. And so we still need to fight for them even though it's like not talked about as much. So yeah.
That's great. So true too. Anybody else want to share? Austin, Dustin, Christine?
I'll go real quick. Higher education. Basically, after this whole coronavirus thing, everybody's freaking out at Delta, some of the professors, because they have to move everything online. So just, I guess, more streaming towards technology and what we have to be ready for in the future with the change of more online classes. But still, we need in-person classes. But technology is taking over. So that's about it. Yeah.
I'll share. Well, I'm just looking at my file holder right now. And the thing that comes to mind when I look at it is the thing that I'm working for or quote unquote fighting for is, sustainable communities in a broad sense, but, more specifically, like working every day to think about how we're planning and preparing communities to not only access jobs and necessary services, but also like to prepare our region for like the unexpected, like what about climate change, like how are we planning for and adapting for that into the future? What about greenhouse gas reductions? We have to meet these targets set by the state, and every day is really just like thinking about and working towards ways to help all of the cities and the county in San Joaquin County like meet these goals and advance these kind of broader sustainability visions for San Joaquin County. So
Yeah. Thanks for your work.
Mhm.
Austin, do you want to share an item?
Sure, I can go real quick. Kind of a long backstory. I have this bracelet. It's like very small twine. Through Changes, I got to work with Changes when I was going to school down in LA. And I had a group of high schoolers that I worked with, and we have an Instagram group message, and apparently you can group chat on Instagram. Just found that out today. So I got to talk to 4 or 5 high schoolers, some young people I worked with, and I think just the thing that I was thinking about today is just like fighting for just like building like genuine strong relationships and building community with people, and knowing that like all of this work is rooted in thinking about like a lot of like I've been thinking a lot about this like term like mutual aid that's being used a lot in activist circles and used a lot in like social justice world, of thinking about like how is there a more sustainable like exchange of resources, and how are people able to how are we able to like come together as a community and think about how to make some of this some of these new realities that coronavirus is going to make us live with like more sustainable as we go forward, and thinking about what support looks like for each other, both online and digitally, and just like in community.
Yeah, that's super real. Well, thank you all for sharing your items. I'll just very, very briefly and then jump in. It's actually, yeah, it's just something small. I don't know if you can see it. Whoops, there it is. It's like a wooden coin kind of thing, commemorative coin that Hatch made during the Women's March. Let's see, it was not this year, but the year before, when we put on the Women's March through the Younger Women's Task Force. And, you know, I was a chapter founding member of the Young Women's Task Force, which is a group that is dedicated to advancing issues related to women 18 to 39 here in our community. And through that work, I've gotten to meet some amazing people, study a lot of local issues at the grassroots community level, from things like childcare to reproductive justice to economic empowerment and issues affecting younger women in our community. And so, yeah, just something small and handmade, which I appreciate very much. So, okay, it looks like we're about a minute beyond, so I'll just jump right in. I want to thank all of you again for joining today. I want to introduce our speaker, who you already kind of got a chance to meet, Sofia Colón. I actually met Sofia through, let's see, I met her actually through Reinvent South Stockton and some of the work that was happening in South Stockton, and got a chance to know her, appreciate her, meet her beautiful family, who all work with her sometimes on her activism, and are their own activists in their own right. But the work that Sofia has done has really inspired me, and I am just so pleased to introduce her to you all today. I'm gonna be the slide master while she speaks. So Sofia, don't forget to give me your cues. And yeah, we'll just jump right on in. I'll kick it over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you so much, Jasmine, for those kind words. Again, just so happy to be here with you all. And as we go through this this presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to just jump in and ask any questions. We can always pause and come back, or dive deeper into something if you like. So this is our presentation. How she does it is the name of my blog, and the title of the presentation: Politically Active, Find a Balance to Use Your Platform for Good. So as I mentioned earlier, whether you have a blog now or you're thinking about starting a blog, there's a need and a responsibility that we have to become politically active in some way. And there are ways that you can kind of put that together with your digital, you're in the digital space, and we're going to talk about how to do that. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So how did I come here? How did I get to this point? In 2013, I advocated to reopen a library here in East Stockton, the Fair Oaks Library. And I really just started by asking questions. I grew up in that area. My family is from that area, going back to my grandmother. So there's several generations, growing up in this area. Fair Oaks as an area, and then Fair Oaks Library itself has always been kind of like a landmark, really. I remember frequently going there as a child. My mom had a business just one block down, so whether it was after school or in the summer, I remember going there and just spending time in the library. And when I had learned that it was at risk for closing, I had to ask, what's going on. But at the time, which was back in 2010, 2011, when the news was starting to come about that it was closing, I really wasn't politically active. I was interested. I thought, look what's going on, and I hope someone does something, was kind of the mentality. And then when it really did close, I thought, well, it's not going to stay closed forever. It'll have to be reopened. You can't close a library. And what I found was that really no one was talking about it, or at least like from what I could tell, it had closed because we were going through bankruptcy at the time as a city. So it was understandable that resources were going to be cut. But after a while, when it remained closed, I thought this just can't go on without any further discussion. So I started to ask questions, and that's kind of where these things picked up in 2013. As from asking questions, I was able to connect with people who were also interested in not just saving this library, but increasing our library and recreation services. And this was the committee, Strong Libraries Equals Strong Communities. And I was able to kind of plug in with this committee group. We advocated for Measure M, which was a citywide measure to increase taxes by just a bit, to cover the funding for increasing those services. So I learned a lot. I learned about not just asking questions anymore, but now actually advocating to put something on a ballot, and to learn how to phone bank, learn how to walk precincts, and ask people to vote for this measure. And then in 2016, it did pass. So the library was able to reopen. And then not only do we have this library reopen, but now we have a whole new library being built in the northwest side of Stockton over by McNair High School. We foresee there's, if you go onto the Stockton Gov website, you can see there's projection plans of what they want to do. So that was one of them, opening up more, increasing our recreation hours, which you'll see at the different recreation centers. We now have Saturday hours, which we never had in years prior. So so a lot of things are happening because of kind of asking these questions, and as a community member, pushing and advocating for these things to change. So after that, the next step really was to learn more, right? Learn more about what's going on in my local community. And I was fortunate to attend the Good Governance course through, and you'll have to help me, Jasmine. It was held at UOP, but it was through.
So there's just a loosely organized group of people. They call themselves the Good Government Group. I don't know that they're still working. Zuli and I put kind of coordinated the course when you were in it, I think. But it's been created. It was created ultimately, I think, by Donna Brown and Dr. Bob Benedetti, who's a former professor at University of Pacific.
Okay, so those it was a several-week course, really diving into each local piece of government, from education to city manager, really understanding the function of each role, and our place in it as residents, and their place in it as city officials. So that that education, along with my experience, helped to fuel part of my blog, which is called On Fridays We Fight, where I try to update and give some advice of what's going on and what we can do as community members. And it also is the basis for this slide. What we're going to go through here a little bit mirrors about my experience with the library, but it will help you in whatever it is that you want to bring awareness to and how to feed that into your digital space. So we'll go ahead and go on to the next slide. So before we go on, I do want to pause and just recognize just a few figures in recent history. These are our social justice heroes in our nation. And again, recent history. It's not far back, hundreds of years ago, but just very recent. We might even have, I know, our parents, our grandparents could really speak to in ourselves with some of these people, but really we have very recent knowledge of the work that these people did. And I want you to think about that for just a moment, that as you start to take a step and put political news on your, whether it's your Instagram or your Facebook or your blog post, think that there's people that have done this with, meeting in small groups. They did this without the internet. They did this going door to door, calling groups together, marches, and what have you. Here we are in a time where we can meet even like this in the comfort of our own home. And if they could do it, you can certainly do it, even if it's just to bring awareness to an issue, spreading some kind of awareness, resharing a post or what have you on your platform. But as we go through the slides and you think of things that you want to share, just know that there's people and supportive groups that are with you 100% and that are ready to kind of stand by you and encourage you to continue on. Use what you have where you are to do good. So we'll go ahead and switch to the next slide. So how we're going to find a balance to use our platform for good is we're going to learn how to make the information relatable. We're going to learn how to choose our topics. And then we're going to learn how to create an action plan, how to take action on what it is that we're bringing awareness to. So we'll go ahead and change to the next one. So first is how to make it relatable. So in regards to the library and my experience, how I made that relatable is by starting with how it affected me, how I felt seeing that the library was going to close, and then when it did close, sharing how it's personally affecting myself, my family. When you have whatever it is that you're passionate about, it's helpful to start with just how is it affecting you. When you see an article about your cause, when you go to reshare that, add a little to the content, how it's affecting you. How do you feel about what's happening? And not to say that you have to go in too much depth, but 2 or 3 sentences explaining what the issue is and how you feel about it. Here's an article I found on this website. It explains what's going on with the library, for example, and it just makes me feel like my library is being threatened. So something, and I'm just speaking generically, but again, it's sharing the information in small bites, how it's affecting me. I'm feeling like it's threatened. I'm feeling like my resource is being taken away from me. That's how you start to make the content relatable. And I just want to pause here for a moment and just ask if anyone has an example of one of the causes that you are passionate about. Have you shared it before? Have you shared this before with your we'll just say on Facebook, for example? How have you done it, and do you have anything you want to add about maybe the responses that you've gotten, maybe comments from people of when you've shared political views? And if not, that's okay. I just
I
wanted to
mean,
pause there for a second.
yeah, no, I mean, I like if no one else wants to speak up, I mean, I'll say I probably really started getting into sharing my feelings on Facebook or my thoughts and feelings on Facebook. I want to say when I moved back to Stockton, I mean, I think it was when I moved back to Stockton, I started to think more about like, how do you make an impact in a place like Stockton um, and started thinking more about like, a personal brand or what is the like, what is the, when people think of me, what is it that they're gonna, kind of come to me for, or see me as like someone that they could go to for resources or support. And so started to kind of share my ideas on Facebook about politics. I'm very I don't know if any of you all of you know me pretty well. I feel like most of you know me pretty well, so you probably know where I stand politically. But um, I think I am very neutral. My political brand online it, I hope it comes off fairly neutral. I have friends on Facebook or across like the digital platforms like that are from all different parts of the political spectrum, and I encourage people to on my Facebook threads to have good civil conversations. But I've had people approach me and say like, I feel like even though I'm a Republican and you're a Democrat, like, I can have a real conversation with you about things because you know you are open-minded or whatever. So but I remember for a long time being very afraid, especially earlier on when I first started sharing things like, are people gonna how are people gonna think, like, am I gonna get my point across in the way that I mean to, especially if you're not very comfortable with writing. I think that's something that I hear a lot is people are afraid that they're not going to be able to make their point in the way that they want people to interpret it, or it might be misunderstood over text. So just some
And that's
thoughts
a
that I
good
had.
point. That's a really good point. And we'll actually go through when we start to choose topics. Everything you kind of just explained are some of the things that people talked about around the roundtable. Um, being nervous, not sure whether their true voice is going to come across. So those are very valid feelings. And when you're just starting, it you do feel like, well, I really am passionate about this, and you might even be a little nervous to share it. Um, but again, we have to kind of push through that, and we're going to talk about how to do it. So hopefully, those of you on the call, you'll feel more confident, more ready to share your views. So we'll go ahead and go on to the next. Yes. So here we are. How to choose those topics. So the best way I found is using this. They call it it's a tree think map, kind of like an upside down tree. Um, but it's one of the best ways to take really big topics and break them down, so that way you can share the information in small bites. And when you do this, you actually accomplish quite a bit. You're able to, as a blogger and influencer, now you have all this content. So now instead of having one long post about one thing, now you have maybe 5 or to 7 different things that relate to the topic, but you have 5 or 7 different content ideas that you can push out onto your Facebook or your Instagram, what have you. Um, so you're sharing the same message, but in different ways, small bites in different ways. So for example, we have here family leave, and I need to move over our little group here, but now I can see the whole tree. Okay, so we have the topic of family leave. And just for example, how we can break that down is there's national, like a federal law, and then there's state law to family leave. And then when we look at these two individually, well, the federal you have federal employees, or you can look at it and say, well, what are the candidates saying, right? As right now we're still voting, right? It's still an election year. So what are the candidates saying now about family leave, or what have they said, and what are some of the things that are being proposed? When we look at the federal employee side, can we break that down? Maybe we're looking at just corporations, large and small employers. Is family leave different for a large employer versus a small employer? On the state side, for state law, we can break it down by industry. We can say, well, how is this affecting me in my workplace? Or maybe, do I have an experience about family leave that I can share? And then can I bring it down even further about my niche or my, for example, my blog is mostly family. They call it a lifestyle blog. So it's mostly family, community, and career. Can I tailor my family leave towards family and moms? Maybe towards family and dads? How can I narrow down my topic even down to my niche? So we can do something like this with any topic, really. So that's how you can choose your topic and take it down into small bites. And again, sharing that in small bites is much easier to swallow, and it's helps you to kind of get over those nerves the first time that you start to share political views. Maybe you're not ready to write a whole paragraph or several paragraphs about this topic, but you do want to share how family leave has affected your family in a couple of sentences. And here's this article I found that goes into detail about it, or here's this podcast I listened to that talked about family leave, and it reminded me of when I took family leave and what I went through. So there's ways to kind of start to leave those little bites of information for your audience. So the next slide, if you all have scratch paper or not, I thought we could try and do this together just as a practice. And I'll leave this open for us to work on together, right? I want to hear from you. What's a topic that you would like to share about?
Just to clarify, Sophia, so you'd like us to do this on like a piece of scratch paper really quick and then share it out, or should we ask you questions?
Well, either way, either we can do it individually, or we can do it all together.
Oh, we can
I'm not
choose
sure
like a group as a group.
As a group, yeah.
Okay,
I wasn't sure. We can try
like
it either
idea.
way.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, let's do as a group. That might be fun. I think just for this first time, we can try as a whole group. If somebody wants to throw out a topic. If not, we can. Yeah, just any topic. What do we have going on? Well,
hopefully nothing about coronavirus, please, people.
We don't want to talk about coronavirus.
I'm like so sick of the
else is
coronavirus.
If I look at, because I have
scared,
NPR,
obviously, but
I'm just gonna open my NPR app and just try to scroll past the coronavirus updates and just see. Let's see what else is up on the news.
literally nothing else.
It's all corona. It is all corona. Well, you know what?
What
We could
about
talk about
Michelle's idea about animal advocacy, animal rights, or something?
Okay.
I love that.
Yes. Michelle, you're okay? Can we work on that one?
Of course. That's awesome.
Okay, great. Okay, so imagine we've written in this bubble, we'll just say animal rights. Okay, animal rights. And with that in mind, how can we start to break that down? Because that's a large topic, right? A big deep topic. So if we have animal rights, what would be the first way we could break that down? Oh, thank you. That's perfect. So, well, we could certainly start with just what does that mean on the national level and what does it mean on the state level, nationally and locally. And this isn't a topic I'm familiar with, so I'm going to kind of lean a little bit towards you, Michelle. I mean, that would be my first thought. Like, what is animal rights nationally? Are there laws?
When I think nationally, I think about just barely recently making animal like real animal abuse like a felony, like more stricter, harsher measures being taken that I think have been long overdue. I think about no kill shelters, and I know that there are some. I don't know about on a national level what that looks like.
So that might be
Just
something under
promoting
state,
those.
maybe.
Yeah,
That could be one of the little, there you go.
definitely wanting to.
I would think too, maybe like what, are there any organizations, like what are the organizations that advocate?
Yeah, I mean, like on a national scale, PETA, but that's kind of up in the air about how, like their views on things are kind of like, I know I just recently having a conversation with somebody that works in the Capitol and said that they don't really even recommend PETA as a source because like they're kind of like when they speak on issues, it's kind of like all over the place. But like the intentions are great, but I think it kind of just got. So I'm not too sure, but I know.
So PETA, as far as like an organization that, let's say this was going to be a blog post for your audience to introduce or to teach them about animal rights organizations.
Okay.
So you would say here are 4 or 5 organizations.
Yeah.
And then a little blurb about PETA, a little blurb about the other ones that you found. So this would be helpful for people who really they don't know much about animal rights, but they want to learn, they want to kind of plug in somewhere, and get them started. So PETA, maybe a comma, organizations, just in general. And you might even explain the pros and cons of each one. I'm sorry, I'm just pausing for a quick moment here. I don't know if you can hear them knocking at my door. I have children, everyone.
And then like a total like other thing.
Sorry.
That's so funny. How cute.
Yeah. He really wants to come in. He's not. I've already asked for help, but then that's what happened.
Yeah,
okay, I'm sorry, Michelle. I don't mean to interrupt. What were you saying?
That's okay. Kind of like with farm animals and like their treatment about, like now you see more like cage-free eggs, or you see grass-fed beef, and I think those are important, like things to when you're shopping to look for, to be in support of that. Because I know I'm not even a vegan. I'm slowly but surely I want to be, but it's hard when you don't grow up that way. But yeah.
True. There's another topic, right? You could put maybe another offshoot, neither national nor state, but more of like personal, right?
Yeah.
Vegan. There you go. Yep, veganism. So as we can kind of see here, we can take a large topic, animal rights, and start to break it down. And now we have, I'm just kind of looking, we have what, 9? 1, 2, 3, 6, or 8 different topics here that we can certainly keep going, right? We can keep breaking them down and breaking them down. So to share political views on your platform and kind of balancing it out, we know you've already kind of made it relatable that you're passionate about animal rights. You've maybe shared a couple of articles about how recent news affected you personally in regards to maybe something going on in this animal rights field. Now you want to post a blog post because you've learned about several organizations that you want to let other people know if they're interested in animal rights. Here are 4 national organizations that you can learn about. So as a viewer, as a follower of your blog, now I've kind of see that you personally have a connection to this issue. Now you're going to share some of your knowledge with me, and that kind of validates everything that you're sharing. I know that you are personally passionate about this topic, and I want to learn more from you.
Yeah.
And you can say that with any of these other examples. Maybe you want to share about your experiences becoming vegan, and I'm not, and so maybe I'm interested. And
Oh,
now
I'm
you're going to. Okay,
not.
well, I'm just example, right?
Eventually,
I'm
yeah.
just now I've kind of related to you because you're sharing your passion with me, and you're going on this journey. Oh, I think I want to too. I might want to learn more from you. So that's how we go, topic by topic by topic.
That's really cool. While you were
Okay.
explaining everything, I thought about we recently got a pit bull. Well, not recently, like a few years ago. My dad found him, and we tried to put up signs and stuff to see if like somebody had lost him, but we ended up just keeping him because nobody claimed him. But
Okay.
just like this really negative stigma towards pit bulls, and especially in shelters, like they're like the most put down. And so there's a local organization. I took a digital video class in high school, so I'm forgetting like the specific name of the organization, but kind of just trying to remove that negative stigma from them and get them adopted. But yeah, they're a really awesome organization. I think so we can that's another personal connection that I'd probably want to work with, because like our whole family loves him and he gets along with our cats, and he's like the most innocent little dude in the whole wide world. So
yeah, that would be a perfect example of another little way to connect to this larger story of animal rights. Here's your personal experience with this organization, or because of your experience with this pet bull, you learn that there's this organization probably not very many people know about.
yeah.
So that's another great example.
Oh, Adoptables, that was organization.
Adoptables, okay. Oh, adoptables because they're pit bulls.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, okay. Oh, that's cute. I'm gonna look that up. Adoptables. That's cute. Okay, next slide. So the next step, now that you've shared all of this information, right? You've shared about your animal rights issues and given us all these tips, where to look for more information, what have you. The next step would be, how do we want our audience to take action? So going back to my experience with the library, after I shared about its closure, shared about wanting to reopen it and plugging in with these different organizations, I was sharing this, but really what I needed was people to do things with me. Not just me sharing this out, but things have to happen in groups, right? For change to take place. And as I was sharing information, there were essentially three different things that I was asking people to do. And the easiest thing was just to simply share these posts and spread awareness. Let people know that that we are going to city council on such and such date, because we want to advocate for the building to be taken off of the sale list, which it was actually, that's really when things got serious for me, because I found that not only did the library close, but it was on our surplus list to be sold. So I knew for sure no one was looking to reopen this library because the building was going to be sold. So I really tried to reach out to my family and my friends on Facebook, asking them to come to City Hall and to advocate that it be removed from the surplus list. And so that's kind of the image that you see here on this slide. Those are my daughters holding up signs that I had made. My mom came, my sister came, I had some cousins, as well as, people from the community, of course. But for me, I not only shared this information and asked for people to reshare, right? Spread awareness, please. But I also asked that, can you please come to this city council meeting? So I'm asking a little bit more from them. So kind of like, there's an easy step, then there's that medium step of, can you please show up? The last step, I call it more challenging, right? I don't want to say hard, it's just challenging, is to ask people to actually join a campaign or to volunteer and to really put some another step into activism. And that was with when I had joined the committee, Strong Libraries Equal Strong Communities, and we started to phone bank and walk precincts. I was able to actually get family to come and phone bank with me. Friends came to phone bank with me. And so that I knew I was taking people out of their comfort zone, but because they had already seen for several months, right, already knew that this library meant something to me. They already knew that the library meant something to this community on the east side of Stockton. And they knew that I needed their help in order for this measure to be passed. So all of this information was being shared and they understood. It built up to when I asked for that help, can you come and phone bank? I had people willing to do it. If I had just come out of the blue and said, oh, they need people to phone bank, we're going to try to pass this measure, even if I had given them all this information, if I had just presented this out of the blue, I might not have gotten the response because there wasn't this buildup of trust and buildup of a relationship around this issue. So really everything that we just talked about, making the topic relatable to you, how it relates to your family, choosing taking this big topic and breaking it down helps people to understand that or they're able to understand that information in small bites easier, as well as it gives you a lot more opportunity to post about it, so there's more content. Then when you get to the point of asking for them to do something, that action step, it you start with something easy, something medium, and something challenging. So something easy is just to always ask that they share your posts, spread awareness of your cause. Or next step, come to a meeting where our group is, or just say our local PETA group, for example, is meeting at this date, this time. Come join us. Just come listen into this meeting, and we're going to learn about this such and such. The next challenging step would be, let's form our own Stockton PETA group. Let's come together and let's start holding our own meetings and start advocating for our own local causes. So now you're really asking people to take that next step and to put in their own action. So if you go to the next slide, that's really the 3 ways that you're able to use your platform for good: making it relatable, choosing the topics, and then setting up the action plan. So I'll stop there if you have questions. I know we spent some time on how to pick topics. Any questions about choosing an action plan? Okay, so if not, we'll go ahead. The next couple of slides is really just information, just extra information I had pulled together. Certainly not an exhaustive list, but just some topics of some common terms that you might come across if you're posting about political information. We don't necessarily need to read through each one, but sometimes people wonder, like, well, when you say big government, what is big government? You might be reading something and not really know what's a national issue. What does that really mean? And so this slide just kind of touches on a few of those things. And then the last slide, again, not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the websites and the podcasts that I click into to get my news. And I would say like NPR is my go-to for the most part. I love NPR, but I do click into some of these other, for example, Moms Rising is one of the ones I first learned about. They really talk about it. They're more of a national group, and they talk about a lot of different issues, from childcare to equal pay, and they have different uh, people that post to their site. So they've got a lot of different viewpoints from across the nation. So it's very interesting. One of the podcasts I like to listen to is called Parenting and Politics Podcast. So again, more of a lens of looking at politics from the parenting lens, I think is what she says at the beginning of each of her podcast episodes. She's from New York, but she talks about a range of topics across the nation. Again, always looking at it from a parenting viewpoint. So, and I encourage you, if you have resources that you really like, definitely share those out. You can, if you're posting about a podcast that you really like, tag me in that post and I'll start to add it to this list. I'm looking forward to maybe just creating like an ongoing list of resources that people find helpful.
I love Pod Save America. I was going to say that because I saw it on your list. They're fun, but they're
They
really
are fun.
informative.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And so that should be the last slide. And I just want to open it up for any questions or comments.
Before you do that,
Okay.
maybe while people are forming their questions, I want to thank you all for joining. This is our, as I mentioned in the beginning of the call, this is our first kind of virtual session of learning session. For the foreseeable future, we'll probably be gathering this way. So thanks for being kind of our first participants. So I want to just take a moment to appreciate Sofia and her adaptability and willingness to join on a Zoom call. You're pretty tech savvy. I'm proud of you. This is great. But yeah, I just want to thank you again. And if you do have any questions, comments, or ideas for us, ideas for topics, things that you want to learn more about, please email us, let us know. But yeah, I'll kick it back to you in case there are questions for you, Sofia.
Okay, thank you. This was nice to still be able to share out the message without having to reschedule, and I'm so glad that you all joined. So just in the meantime, as you're formulating your question, I'll just speak a little bit about my blogging experience and why and how I started to post more political views. So I started blogging some time ago, and initially it started because of the library. There's a blog that I started on Blogspot or Blogger. I forget the name of it, but I'll have to find it and maybe share it later. It was to post what at the time I called a big idea to reopen the library. And it just evolved into now this How She Does It blog. But because I became politically active back then, I still found myself wanting to share those topics. And the way that I fit it in, along with the other things that I talk about, I found it was much easier to do it, to have a theme. So I just kind of came up with On Fridays We Fight, was because it just kind of rang in my ear. And also to kind of mirror back to being politically active is your fight. And we shouldn't rest on the weekends sometimes. That's usually we have a lot going on the weekends. And so it's kind of like on Fridays, I'm sharing this news. There's probably something happening the following week or the next day, like on a Saturday or weekend, right? And so I just kind of came, as I was formulating, I felt like Fridays was the best day to share political news with action steps. And that actually really helped me gain a little bit more focus and a little bit more scheduling as far as my blog was concerned. So if you have a blog or you're wanting to start a blog, it is helpful to create a content calendar. And that's part of where, on Fridays, I know that this is what I'm going to be posting about, or I'm going to be resharing an article, a previous blog post on Fridays. Kind of like it helps me organize myself.
I love that. I do have a quick question for you. What is are there certain tools or software that you use that you like most, or things that you recommend for newer bloggers?
Yes. So I started off, like I said, on, I want to say it's called Blogger. It's from Google, I believe. Um, but I found that WordPress is much easier. And that's what I use now for my current blog on how she does it. It's through WordPress. You can have a free WordPress site. You just end up having the WordPress at the end of your blog. You know, blog name dot WordPress, which is fine. Your when you have a free WordPress, there are templates that you can follow, so you don't have to create it from scratch. It's really, you just choose one of the templates that you like, and it creates it for you. Your blog posts are kind of that's separate. But let's say if you're looking at your site as a viewer, that template looks very polished. So you can really get away with having a free WordPress site for as long as you want to. I recently upgraded my WordPress site, and by upgrading it, I'm able to monetize my site. So as far as like if I wanted to do affiliate marketing, I'm able to do that on the site. It also gives me some features so I can improve they call it SEO. So versus on the free site, you don't have these extra tools. But if you do a little research about SEO, which is your search engine optimization, so using keywords so that way the internet picks up your blog, um, you can do that research on your own and know how to plug that into your blog, or you upgrade, get those features to monetize your site, and then you have other features to help you with the SEO. So there's more tools that you get when you upgrade to a paid WordPress site. There are certainly other sites that you can create your own blog on. I just prefer WordPress because I find that it's user friendly for me. What I use for my images, I really love Canva. So canva.com. Again, templates. I love templates. Yeah, I used to in the very beginning, like try to create different things from scratch. Um, I'm really old school, so I really like Paint, Microsoft Paint. And I'm like, I can do this on my own, but it was so time consuming. So Canva is also free, or you can upgrade to a paid site. But with the free Canva, you have access to all kinds of templates, whether you want to create images for your blog, create Pinterest images. Um, they have everything on there. So I encourage you to go on canva.com and just look at the different templates that they have. So helpful. So those are the two I would say are my favorite. As far as actually creating my blog, again with a template, um, this is just something that I picked up from other bloggers. You have your heading, right? Your headline. Then you have your introduction paragraph, and then you have a photo of some kind, or a video or quote or whatever it is, just something visual. And then you might talk about your topic again. And for me, because I always want to make sure I leave action steps, mine are like action steps 1, 2, 3, and then your closing. And your closing could be just a wrap, just a wrap up, a recap of what you talked about, or again, your call to action. Um, so it's, the closing part is that last paragraph.
Can you recap that? So it was
Yes.
heading.
Mm-hmm.
Say it again.
So it's your heading, and then your introductory paragraph, and then an image of some kind, right? And then I guess you could say like the next thing after that image would be the body of your blog.
Like
So
a discussion.
Your discussion, yeah, whatever it is
Yeah.
you're talking about, that's going to be under the image. And then, like, because for me, I try to make sure that I give you action steps. So I usually have like 1, 2, and 3,
Mm-hmm.
just for example. And then you have your closing
Mm-hmm.
paragraph. So in there, you might want to stick another photo. After that initial photo from the top, you got your body. You might want to stick in another photo, or at the end, do another photo just for visual purposes, depending on what you're writing about. Again, with WordPress, you're able to embed Instagram links. You can embed YouTube in there. So it doesn't have to be a picture only. Let's say you're talking about the PETA group and you want to link people to their Instagram. You could embed that in your WordPress. And now, people are looking at your blog. Oh yeah, I'm going to click that and go straight to the Instagram page. So that's
Cool.
another way.
Very cool.
Yeah. And it's helpful to have a template because sometimes as you're trying to get you're trying to post, right, so many per week or per month, but let's say you just want to get all of your writing done at one time. Having the template makes it so much easier than writing from scratch, and it also then creates consistency with your blog. So now your readers know whenever they go to your blog, they know they're going to learn 3 things.
That's awesome. Consistency is key.
Yes.
That's why I've like sucked at blogging because I'm totally inconsistent with blogging. I'm just like,
right.
There are things that I'm consistent with. Blogging and writing is not one of them. I'm working on it.
You'll find it, I'm sure. Yeah.
Maybe through this quarantine time, I'll get better at writing and blogging.
Got some time.
I'm definitely getting better at reading. I'm
Okay.
Christine is the reading whiz over here. She reads all the time. Any other questions for Sophia?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask one, like, how much time do you usually have to spend for your blog over the week, and then how do you make sure that you make time for it?
That's a really good question. It can vary sometimes. So I want to give 2 examples. Last year, I went to a blogging conference called We All Grow, and I got some really great feedback on my blog. And after I left there, I spent like the next 2 to 3 weeks for at least 3 hours a day, and I just focused on my writing. And I used the techniques where I got my topic and I broke it all down. So I knew what I wanted to talk about. And for like those good 2, maybe 3 weeks altogether, I made sure like I just blocked off time because it was actually in between like school. So I knew wasn't going to be distracted by school either. So I'm like, okay, I've got this time, and I just focused in and wrote. I wrote the content first, then I came back and did the imaging, and then I came back and tried to work with Canva on some of the heading. I call it a header, but it's like your blog post image that people see when they look you up. So all together in doing that, it took those many hours, so like 2 to 3 hours a day for 2 weeks. I'm not good at math. What does that come to? Like 14? No, 7 days a week is
42. It's like a full work week, basically.
Kind of like a full work week. Yeah, definitely like a part-time job. It was kind of how I felt at the time. Like, okay, this is my part-time job. I'm gonna crank all this writing out. But when I was all done with that, I had so that was May. I had content that I was able to schedule, because you can also do that on WordPress. You can schedule out all your blog posts. I had it all set through the end of the year. So a few weeks of dedicated writing time, I was set on my blog posts for the whole rest of the year. So that was worth it to me. Then what I did throughout the year was I just reshared onto Instagram. I just reshared onto Facebook and Twitter, because those are my 3 main ones. And then now I'm learning how to get my Pinterest going. So going back now to those old blog posts, I'm creating Pinterest images from Canva, adding them into the blog, and then resharing it.
Cool.
So I do need to set off some time again, some block of time to crank out that writing again. But then I know once I do that, then I'll be set for several months of scheduled blog posts. But before all that, it would take me hours and hours, because I didn't have a template at the time. I wasn't quite familiar with how Canva worked. And I really because I didn't have a template, it was hard to get the writing to flow. So create a template that works for you. Really helps you to focus in on telling your story quickly, because you don't really want to spend hours and hours. You want to be able to have your topics and put them right in the headline, paragraph, picture, 1, 2, 3, closing, off it goes. Next. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The timing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a killer.
It is.
And I don't know how you do it. That's why I love the title of your blog, How She Does It. I don't know how she does it. I really don't.
Yeah.
Your family, and I know your family is very important to you, and your professional work. Like, I just don't know how you do it, but you're amazing.
Neither do I still, I think. And that's part of why I have the blog, because I thought, I'm going to try to figure this out. I'm going to write about it. And I do love writing. I've always loved writing. Always. I had a diary when I was young. So I've always loved writing. So I thought, I'm going to write this out. I'm going to figure this out. And I think it's just part of it is because I want to do all these things. There's so much that I want to do. And that's what drives me. But we can't do everything, right? I've learned now. I'm not an old woman, but I've lived long enough to know, like, I really can't do everything, but I'm choosing now what I want to do and trying to do those things the best that I can. So that's what I share about family, community, career. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Great.
Okay, well, it looks like we have 3 minutes left. Any final questions, thoughts?
I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your story. I didn't know all of that history around the library, and kind of seeing it now, like, reopened in a very vibrant, like, public space. Like,
Mm-hmm.
It's really, the community is really fortunate to have someone like you, like, fighting to keep access to that type of public good in the neighborhood. And the one thing that I kept in mind, listening to you and your presentation and your story, was that I know that I work, like, on the government side, the public sector side, and so sometimes, like, the advocacy or the activists are targeting, like, public agencies for the type of change that they want to see in their communities. For me, a lot of times I'm, like, reaching out into the community and trying to get people to care about what I'm doing. And so when I was thinking about the way you were breaking down the topics and things like that, it made me think about how to apply that in a way that activates people to care about the work that we're doing. So I really appreciated that perspective.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to your posts then. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions or thoughts, we'll go ahead and wrap up. And thank you all. I'll give you back 1.5 minutes of your time. And I hope you all have a great evening, and wishing you all good health. Stay home. We're going to flatten this curve together, and we'll get through it. And we look forward to our next session. Stay tuned on you can follow us on Facebook. Definitely go follow Sofia, her Instagram, her Facebook, Twitter. She's on LinkedIn. She's everywhere. So go follow her and stay in touch beyond this session.
Great. Thanks, Sophia.
Right.
Thanks so much for this.
You're very
Thanks,
welcome.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Right.
All right. You too.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.